Hello and welcome to the Dyson Leadership Podcast. On this episode of the podcast, we're going to be looking at 10 of the key characteristics of servant leadership. And so this is coming out first. And if you want to know more about servant leadership and dive a little bit more in depth as to what it is and some of the characteristics, there will be a video coming out on my YouTube channel in a couple weeks that again will reiterate then these 10 characteristics, but also a lot more details. A study that is about serving and taking care of people as your priority. Basically, people are your number one. They come first. Serving and taking care of your people will lead to a successful organization. It is a leadership style that is talked about in Christian circles very heavily because Jesus is seen as a servant leader. There is a lot of books written on servant leadership. There are a lot of Christian books written on servant leadership. But for this podcast, I just wanted to jump on and share 10 key characteristics of servant leadership, what they are, and a little of how they contribute to servant leadership. And so the number one, I feel like I talk about this a ton in communication training, but one of the most vital aspects of servant leadership is just listening. And I will go a step further and say effective listening, active listening, through intentional listening. I can add a lot of other buzzwords in there, but listening to the people who follow you or just listening to people around you in general, that's something that really does matter. When you actually take time to listen, what are their concerns? What are they happy about? What's something good that's happened? How are things with their family? When you actually take time to listen about what's going on, it shows you care about them. It shows that you are invested into them. And, we can even go a step further. And when you really do listen and pay attention to what people share, you might find that they share their frustrations, things that are a headache about their job, or things that maybe they wished were improved and could be better. You would have never known otherwise. I've done work in continuous improvement, both in a few different roles. And one of the aspects that we were taught what to do is ask five whys. Why do you do this way? Okay, well, why is that? And you just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper because you want the person to get to the root cause. Well, part of that is you can ask why, you can ask these detailed questions to get down to a deeper meaning, but you still have to be able to listen to understand what that deeper meaning is. If somebody looks at you and just makes the comment, for example, I spend so much time just walking back and forth, getting raw materials to go and put on this machine. Okay. Well, that could just be seen as a complaint. And if you're not truly listening to the problem, and John's just complaining about his job again, and you don't really pay attention and don't really care. But if you listen and you take notice, okay, John's got a frustration with his job. What's something that we can do that could be a solution? Obviously, the most simple is, hey, is there a way we can move raw materials closer? Is there a process we can change? What's something we can adjust to make this situation easier? Because John is going to become happier with his job. He's not going to be frustrated having to waste so much time walking back and forth, but at the same time, it improves efficiency because what John is truly complaining about is a lack of efficiency that is impacting his job. But at the surface level, most people are just going to see it as a complaint. I don't like this aspect of my job, or I don't like doing this. But number two, you're already hearing a little bit of this characteristic, but we're going to talk about it a little deeper, but it's empathy. Actually caring about the people who you lead, the people in your organization. There are a lot of organizations who sadly just simply look at their people as a means to an end. They are there to contribute a certain role, a certain task, just solely to make profit for the company or the shareholders. And that's the only focus. The people themselves, their family, their kids, the reason they chose this profession or studied a degree in college to come and do this work, we don't care about any of that in a lot of organizations. But yet, somebody who's empathetic is going to care about the person at a deeper level. It's always amazing to me when people ask, why did I study business in college? Because there's a whole story behind it. But yet, most people don't ask. They just ask, what did you study in college? Oh, I studied business administration. And it ends there. That's the end of the conversation. But there's a deeper meaning when you ask why and you care about the person. You want to hear their story, hear what brought them to where they are, makes a big difference. Now, at the same time, when it comes to empathy, what comes to your mind when, an employee walks in and it looks like they've been crying, or you overhear them talking on the phone and it sounds like a really emotional conversation and then they seem distracted and just completely mentally absent for the entire rest of the day. There's a lot of organizations would just ignore them and say, well, they'll figure it out on their own. It's none of my business. I'm not going to talk to them. It's not that you go and you're trying to be nosy, but you can go and simply ask, "Hey, is everything okay? Is there anything you need to talk about or want to talk about?" It could be a very vague, simple question, but it shows you care. It shows you take notice of what that person is dealing with and you want to connect with them. That is being an empathetic leader, somebody who actually cares about the person and what they have going on. And they're willing to take time out of their day to listen to somebody else. So empathy and listening really comes into play. Now we build on that listening, empathy, and now we go to healing. But here's what this means from a leadership perspective. For me as a leader, I like to believe that I look for healing in people. And what I mean by that is if you are facing burnout, I want to identify the cause of that burnout and help reduce that so you are more happy and healthy in your job. If you are struggling with work life balance, I want to find out why. Can we improve efficiencies? Can we improve time management? Can we work on something to give you time back so you have more peace of mind and you have time to spend with your family, friends, and things that are important to you? That's an aspect of healing. Now, at the same time, I've seen organizations where if somebody is sick and they're not well, then all of a sudden it's, oh, well, they got sick time, they'll take their sick leave and they'll be back when they feel better. But it's totally different when there's an organization has support systems in place for, hey, we're going to help cover a little bit of their medical cost, or this was unexpected that happened to them. We want to take care of them. We want to see them happy, whole, and we want to see their family taken care of. That is just that step further into healing that makes a big difference. I always love when I hear organizations that have maybe a fund to help with emergency medical cost, or maybe the company starts a GoFundMe, but the company itself donates a large chunk to that to help cover costs. Things like that, wanting to see the people healthy, happy, and whole is really important. And I think that's an aspect of servant leadership as well. The next aspect of servant leadership that I want to detail is just simply awareness. That is awareness of your surroundings, that is awareness of yourself as a leader, and awareness of what is going on. I just got done talking about the health or healing aspect. Now, if you have an employee who obviously is struggling with something, can you tell? Are you in tune enough and aware enough to know when they are struggling, when they're hurting, when something is wrong, when they're just off? The other question is, are you aware enough of your own leadership and your own personality where maybe you're coming off as aggressive to somebody? Do you realize it? Is your communication style a little bit more combative? Do you realize that? Are you aware of it? Maybe you come off to some people as an absolute pushover and they think they can do whatever they want and there's no consequences. Are you aware of it? Can you pick up on that? There's an aspect of awareness that servant leadership, because they take time to reflect and to learn and evaluate themselves, they become more self aware and can identify those different aspects. And so that leads into the others. The more aware you are, the better leader you can be. The more aware you are, the more empathetic you can be. The more aware you are, the better at healing you can be. The more aware you are, the better listener you're going to be. It's all connected, it's all intertwined. Another key aspect that servant leaders have rather than something they do is good persuasion. Now, a lot of people like to say persuasion is just coercion, but that's not the case. Coercion is when you're kind of forcing somebody or feeling like they have no choice but to do something. That is being coerced into a situation. But rather, persuasion is when you ask somebody to do something or your influence makes them decide to do it of their own free will. Persuasion and there's coercion, totally different. But a servant leader, here's the reason they can be persuasive is because people who they interact with know that the leader cares about them. They know that the leader has their best interest. They care about what's going on. They're empathetic. They listen. All of that stuff that I've detailed. And so when the leader comes to them, there's a level of persuasion because the people now want to listen, want and care about what's going on. Now, the next two traits I'm going to kind of combine. I do that in my YouTube video that's coming out in a couple weeks. But there's foresight and there's conceptualization. We can get into a lot of different definitions, play on words, that kind of thing. But servant leaders are good at being visionaries, seeing off into the future and knowing this is where we want the organization to go. This is how we want our people to be developed. This is what the big picture is. We want to go this way. Servant leaders are really good at that aspect. But you can be a visionary leader and never put it into action or never establish a plan of how you're going to pursue that end. Now, a servant leader is able to conceptualize, okay, here's the big picture going this way, or here's how we want people developed. Here's how we want this vision to go this way. And this is the first step that we need to take. And this is the first step we need to develop our people. And when we take the first step towards this action, the first step towards developing our people, then the big vision starts to move forward. They're able to conceptualize the big vision into something that is actionable. And that's something that's very unique with servant leaders. Are they always successful at it? No, but no leader ever is. But servant leaders are really good at being visionaries and persuading people to buy into the vision and conceptualizing the next steps. And when they persuade people to join them in that pursuit of the next steps, things start to get done. Why? Because there's listening, there's empathy, there's that awareness. People are connected to the servant leader and care about them the way they feel the servant leader cares about the employees. The next trait that I want to share with you is, again, we kind of argue it's a play on words, but I personally even view this different, but it's stewardship. Again, I reference there's a lot of organizations that look at people as means to the end, or they also look at an organization as a whole as this business lives and operates to make the most revenue and profit for its shareholders. And it's all just monetary or profits or possessions, that kind of mindset. But a servant leader sees it as a stewardship opportunity. I have been entrusted with these people. I've been entrusted with this business unit. I've been entrusted with this revenue stream, and I need to take care of it to the best of my ability so that it is successful. These people are entrusted to me, and I need to take care of them so they can be the best they can be. It's seen as a stewardship aspect that instead of how can I X this process or X this product line, how can I help my people just get the slightest bit better? And then after that, another slight little bit better. How can I continue them on a personal and professional growth? And because they're successful, then the rest of the organization will be successful because I took care of my people. That's a different mindset that a servant leader has. Number 9, you've heard a lot of things kind of related to this. And so this ties in very well with everything else. But servant leaders are fully committed to growth of people. It is very much that people come first and successful people breed successful organizations. That if you train and develop your people, those people will go and then turn your organization into a success. Now, this isn't without research and backing that kind of argument. So I've seen it in different research, different statistics where a lot of millennials and Gen Z are very focused on leadership training and opportunities or being able to cross train with other skill sets, anything to help them advance or become better at their career. Now, if that's a focus for them and your organization does not offer them training and development opportunities, they're going to leave. Statistics prove it. Over the last 5 years, that's been a very common theme. If your organization does not invest into these younger generations in training and development, they will leave. Guaranteed. But if you offer the training and development and show that investment into the people, your retention and even recruitment of employees goes up significantly higher. If you don't believe me, go research it, go find the statistics. I promise you it's there. There's a significant percentage of people that leave because they don't get training and development. But yet, it's such a simple thing to do. If you don't have a program established in your organization, find somebody like myself, hire me to come in and facilitate programs because it's going to be cheaper to pay me to come in and do training and development than it is for you to replace your employees every 2 years. Just being real. That's part of the reason I love what I do, is because I get to use my passion to build organizations and help them become more successful and grow their leaders and grow their employees. But at the same time, I'm helping you cut cost in recruitment and retention. There's a good benefit to that. Servant leaders are committed to the growth of people. So you need to be focused on, how do I develop my people? Because that will keep them in my organization. And the longer we keep people in the organization that knows the business, knows the processes, and they're continually upscaling their own skills, guess what? They are going to be successful. That is a key aspect of servant leadership, is buying in and investing into your people. Now, the last one can be controversial depending on who you talk to, but it's the idea of building a community. I hear a lot of businesses talk about, we're a family here, or we are family. And I personally disagree with that statement, because my family, I think of my spouse or my parents or my siblings. And I'm sorry, none of my coworkers or none of my managers are ever going to take that role or that place. So for me, I don't use that term. I don't consider people at work a family, but they are a community of people. Humans by nature love to have a tribe or a community or a sense of belonging, a place that they can come and feel connected to people. Family has its place, it's its own entity. Community is something separate. A servant leader focuses on building that close connection in that community, though, where people feel comfortable coming into work. They feel comfortable talking to people. If they have a bad day, it's, hey, this is going on. Can you pray for me? Or, hey, just keep me in your thoughts as this is happening. Or, we're really having a hard time, and they can just talk to people. And there's an open community because there's a sense of belonging, and it is a little bit deeper than just a job or work. Most people, not all, obviously, but most people are going to prefer working at an organization where there is a sense of belonging, purpose, and connection than one where there is not. That is the importance of building community. And that's something a servant leader does. Now, you might be one of those organizations that you use the "we are family" or "we are like family," something along those lines. If it works for you and your organization, great. Me personally, I don't use the term because I don't like it. Personal preference, personal opinion. You're entitled to your personal preference, personal opinion for your organization. But either way, you evaluate your community, your connection, your tribe of an organization. And true servant leaders look to grow, build, and develop that so that it is successful. It continues to grow and thrive. And that ties into even your corporate culture. And so those are all elements that play into this as servant leaders. So this has been 10 key characteristics of servant leaders and what makes servant leadership successful or important. Now, I'll be honest with you. I know some people, they don't like servant leadership, and that's perfectly fine. There's probably 100 different leadership styles that we could detail. But what's important is you see the benefits and what is good. And I believe you can take the good, the positive, and the things that you see in servant leadership that you want to apply to your organization. You don't embrace all 10 characteristics, but you embrace 5 because you think they will make a significant difference for your organization. If that's the case, by all means, add them, use them, take advantage of them. If you need help with leadership development programs or training and development programs, reach out to a trainer in your area or even myself. I would love to have that conversation. See if I can help you improve your culture, your leadership development, training and development, cut down on your turnover, and those types of things. You can visit my website. Information's in the description of this, DysonLeadership.com. This is what I do. I teach people leadership, training, development. I want to make your organization successful, grow, and to thrive. So if you enjoy this, be sure to subscribe, follow along, check out my YouTube channel, subscribe over there, look for the longer video or the more in-depth video of servant leadership. And wherever you consume this podcast, please leave us a rating. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you can leave comments, please leave me a comment. What was the most impactful trait of servant leadership from this video? Let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts. And please join me again next month for another episode of the Dyson Leadership Podcast.